generated during the period of 1 year. Okay, so this is how the trading account is basically formed. This is the format of the trading account. So we have already discussed that, and we have also done few questions based on it. Then I've also told you the meaning of the direct expense, wherein I have explained that direct expenses are the expenses that are incurred either in the factory or which are incurred on the purchase of goods, and expenses which are also incurred during the basically for bringing the goods into the factory. So all those expenses that is incurred uh, in transit for bringing the good into the business, that is also direct tax. Expenses that are actually incurred on the purchase of goods, that is direct, not direct tax, direct expenses. And expenses which are incurred actually in the factory itself, then it will be also direct expense. And all the expenses incurred beyond the factory will be considered as the indirect expenses. So direct expenses are taken into consideration while preparing the trading account, but indirect expenses are not included in the trading account. They will be added in the profit and loss account that we will be doing today. So after this, I have given you few examples, few names, few expenses which are actually considered as a direct expense. And I have also explained you the concept of direct expense through this small illustration. Okay, I hope the concept of the direct expense is clear to all. Then we have done few questions wherein we need to prepare the trading account. After the concept of trading account, we have also understood the concept regarding the cost of goods sold and adjusted purchases. And also we have also done few questions based on these concepts. So I hope everything that we have done in the previous classes is clear to everyone. So in today's class, we will be starting a new topic in this particular chapter only. So the topic that we will be starting is the profit and loss account. So first of all, before proceeding further in this chapter, I just wanted to know if you guys have any doubt regarding the previous topics. If you guys have any doubt regarding any question that we have discussed, anything that anyone wants to discuss. Alexander, Hamad, Halima,
No doubt.
no doubts. Okay, all right. So, okay, guys. So let's continue. Let's start with the concept of the profit and loss account. So, first of all, what is a profit and loss account? So, profit and loss account is just a different type of account. It is an account, obviously. So, it also this account has two sides: the debit side and the credit side. The left side of see, this is the format of the profit and loss account. So these both these column are considered as the debit side of the profit and loss account, and this is considered as the credit side of the profit and loss account. So in the debit and credit side, what are the various items recorded in the profit and loss account that we will discuss. So first of all, in the profit and loss account, we write down the value of the gross losses. If let's say, just a minute, let me explain this concept on the note. Just a moment. Okay, so the thing is that before preparing the profit and loss account, what do we actually prepare? We prepare the trading account. Okay, when you prepare the trading account, just so this is how the trading account is formed. So in the trading account, what are the various items that we record? We record the value of the opening stock on the debit side to opening stocks, then to net purchases on the debit side. Other than purchase, we also write down the value of the expenses. All the direct expenses are recorded on the debit side of the trading account. And on the credit side, we write down the value of the net sales, that is sales after adjusting the sales return. Then we also write down the value of the closing stock. Primarily, all these items are recorded in the trading account. And after recording all these values, at the end of the year, what do? We finalize the account. And at the time of finalizing the account, what do? We first of all total the credit side of the account. So let's say I have totaled this account. Then after totaling the credit side, I will be reducing the values on the debit side from the total of the credit side. From this value, let's say if this is 5 lakh, I will be reducing all these values from 5 lakh. So after reducing these value, there is a possibility that either the credit side is greater than the debit side or credit side may be less than the debit side. If credit side is greater than the debit side, then in that case, there will be gross profit. Okay. And if the credit side is less than the debit side, in that case, there will be gross loss. So gross loss will be recorded on the debit side, credit side, sorry, gross loss, and gross profit is recorded in the credit side of the trading account. Now, as soon as we are done with the trading account, we prepare the profit and loss account. So just try to understand. After finding the gross profit, gross loss, we total the trading account. Then after preparing the trading account, we start preparing the profit and loss account. So profit and loss account is always prepared after preparing the trading account. So in case of while preparing the profit and loss account, what are the items that we record in the profit and loss account? So these are the items that we generally record in the profit and loss account. Just a minute. Okay. So guys, just keep this in mind that the purpose of trading account is to determine the gross profit or gross loss generated by the business. Similarly, the purpose of the profit and loss account is to determine the net loss or net profit generated by the business. So while preparing the profit and loss account, the first thing that we do, we record the value of if there is a gross loss in the trading account. If there is gross loss in the trading account, this gross loss will be carried forward to the profit and loss account. So if there is a gross loss in the trading account, this gross loss will be carried forward to the profit and loss account on the debit side. So we will write down to gross loss on the debit side of the profit and loss account. And similarly, if instead of gross loss in the trading account, if there was gross profit, then the gross profit will be carried forward to the credit side of the trading account. So in that case, I will be writing the gross profit on the credit side by gross profit. Getting my point that gross profit or gross loss will be the first item that will be recorded in the profit and loss account. And where do these items come from? These items come from the trading account. If there is a gross loss, then also this will be recorded in the profit and loss account. If there is a gross profit in the trading account, then also it will be carried forward to the profit and loss account. But whether it will be recorded on the debit side or credit side, it depends upon whether in the trading account we have the loss or the profit. If we have the profit, then the profit will be carried forward to the credit side of the profit and loss account. If there was a loss, then loss will be carried forward to the debit side of the trading account. Tell me, is this clear, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now,
Yes.
after writing the value of the gross profit or gross loss, what do we record here? On the debit side, we also record all the indirect expenses. All the indirect expenses. So what are indirect expenses? Expenses incurred out of the factory. That is, let's say expenses incurred in the office or in any administration department. Like for example, payment of salary to the employees, advertisement expenses, or any other expenses that is not related to the factory or production directly, that will be considered as the indirect expense. So all the indirect expenses are recorded on the debit side, same as the trading account. In case of trading account also, we were recording all the expenses on the debit side. Similarly, in case of profit and loss account also, we will be recording all the expenses on the debit side only. But the difference is that in case of profit and loss account, we will be recording all the indirect expenses only. But in case of trading account, we used to record the direct expenses only. So that is the main difference. Now let's come to the credit side of the profit and loss account. On the credit side, we record all the incomes that is generated during the period of 1 year. So we write down indirect income, not the direct incomes. Direct income basically means the income generated on account of sales. So sales income are not recorded here. All indirect incomes will be recorded here. Like I will give you a few examples. For example, company have let out their one of the building. Company have let out their building, and by letting out the building, company is earning a rental income. So this rental income is not the operating income. This is the non-operating income of the business, or you can say this is the indirect income of the business. So any income which is not directly related with the business will be considered as the indirect incomes. Like all the indirect expenses are recorded on the debit side. Similarly, all the indirect incomes will be recorded on the credit side. This is it. So gross, if there is a gross profit, we will record it here. If there are indirect incomes, we will record here. If there is a gross loss, we will be recording it here. And if there are indirect expenses, we will be recording on the debit side. And after recording all the indirect expenses, indirect income, everything, then at the end of the year, what do? We will now total the credit side first of all. So after totaling the credit side, we will be reducing these value from the total of the credit side. After reducing these value, if credit side exceed these value, then in that case there will be to net profit. Then in that case it will be a net profit. Let's say, let me give you an example. Let's say gross profit generated and carried forward from the trading account is 5 lakh, for example. All indirect income is rupees 2 lakh. All right. So that means total of the credit side will be 7 lakh. All right. Now from the 7 lakh, we will be reducing the indirect expenses only, because if there is a gross profit, obviously there will be no gross loss. So only indirect expenses will be reduced. So let's say indirect expenses is 4 lakh. It clearly shows that credit side is greater than the debit side. So the difference between the credit side and the debit side, if credit side exceeds, then in that case, it will be a net profit situation. We will be having a net profit of rupees 3 lakh. And if, let's say, if on this side, the value is 17 lakh and on this side, the value of indirect expenses is 24 lakh, then in that case, we will have a loss. So losses, if there is a loss, we will be recording it on the credit side of the basically the profit and loss account. So by net loss will be on the credit side. So whatever the value of loss, it will be recorded here. Tell me everyone, is this clear, all of you? Is this getting too much technical? If everything is clear, if anything is not clear to you, do let me know, please. Alexander, Halima, Hamad, Peer, Steve, is this clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Halima? Okay, for Peer it is little confusing. Peer have just texted me. Okay. So it is clear for everyone else. Okay, no problem. So let me explain this once more on this PowerPoint. So see, Peer, I was saying that profit and loss account is prepared after preparing the trading account. So whatever the result in the trading account was, that result will be carried forward to the profit and loss account. If trading account is showing the gross loss, then gross loss will be carried forward to the profit and loss account on the debit side. But if trading account was showing the gross profit, then the gross profit will be transferred to the credit side of the profit and loss account. So depending upon the situation, the values will be recorded here. If there is a gross loss, then on the debit side, we will record the value. If there was a gross profit in the trading account, then we will be recording it on the credit side. After writing the gross profit or gross loss, we will be reducing, we will be writing the indirect expenses on the debit side and all the indirect incomes on the credit side. After recording all the indirect incomes and indirect expenses, we will be totaling the credit side. And after totaling this side, we will be reducing the values shown on the debit side. And after reducing the values shown on the debit side, either there can be two situations. Either the debit side will be greater than the credit side. If this is the situation, this indicate there is a loss. If debit side exceed the credit side, that means expenses are exceeding the incomes. If expenses are more than the income, then in that case, obviously what will happen? There will be a loss. And if credit side is more than the debit side, then in that case, it will be a profit. So if debit side exceed the credit, it will be a loss. Otherwise, it will be a profit. Tell me, everyone, is this clear, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Is it clear now? Okay. Now, let me tell you a few items which are included in the indirect expenses. So indirect expenses are of basically 4 types. Indirect expenses may be related to office and administration. Indirect expenses may be related to sales and distribution. Indirect expenses can also be related to financial expense, or there may be some miscellaneous expenses. So all the expenses that are incurred after the factory, when the product goes, any expense incurred beyond the factory is considered as the indirect expense. All right. So indirect expenses can be incurred in the office administration department. It can be incurred in the sales department. It can be incurred in the financial department, or financial department basically means accounts department. And then there can be some miscellaneous expenses, like for example, expenses on coffee, tea, expenses for the peon, or anything else, like expenses on telephone. These are some miscellaneous expenses on petrol. So these are miscellaneous expenses. Now, in case of office administration, in case of office and administration, these expenses are generally included: rent, trade expenses, lighting, legal charges, postage and telegram, printing, stationery, bank charges, audit fees, and salaries. Guys, I would recommend that you basically take the screenshot of all these topics, so that it will be easier for you to revise. So kindly take the screenshot of all the topic that I'm covering. All right. So in case of the office administration, we have these expenses generally. And if you talk about the miscellaneous expenses will include repair, depreciation, donation, charity, general expenses. All these are considered as the miscellaneous expenses. Guys, you are not required to basically remember all these expenses. As soon as these expenses will appear in the question, you will be easily able to identify that these are the indirect expenses. You are not, especially you are not required to remember all these expenses item by item. Okay. Then in case of financial expenses include interest on loan, interest on capital. And similarly, selling and distribution expenses may include carriage outward, bad debts, discount allowed, commission, packaging, and warehousing expense, delivery vehicle, advertising expense. All of these are sales related expenses. All right. So basically, indirect expenses are considered as the non-operating expenses. Yeah. You can say that these expenses are not directly related with the production. So anything which is not directly related with the production, it will be considered as the indirect expense. Similarly, if any income that a business is receiving and that income is not directly connected with the main business of the main operations of the business, then in that case, those income will also be treated as the indirect incomes only. So like we have invested in some securities or in case of some debenture bonds, and we are receiving interest on such investment, then that investment will be considered as the non-operating or the indirect incomes. Similarly, if we have received a commission, if we are receiving a discount, bad debts recovered, or income from investment, dividend received, all of these are not considered as the main income of the operation. These are all non-operating incomes, and therefore we will be recording it in the profit and loss account. Tell me, is this clear? Is the indirect income and indirect expenses are clear to all of you? Alexander, Hamad, Halima, Beer, and Steve.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So right now you are not required to remember each and every income and expense. You will be easily be able to decide whether these expenses are direct or indirect once you will see these expenses and income in the question. You will be easily be able to find out that you are not required to remember all these expenses and incomes. Now moving on to the next slide. So now we will prepare the profit and loss account from this information. This question may seems a little difficult. It may seems a little lengthy because too much information is given in this question, but believe me, this question is very easy. So we are just required to prepare the profit and loss account in this question, and accordingly we are required to find out the net loss or net profit generated by the business. This is it. So everyone just prepare the format of the profit and loss account. Everyone just prepare the format of the profit and loss account, and we will be calculating the net profit and net loss from the given information. Peer is saying, oh, sorry, indirect expenses will be given in question or it is already calculated in the trading account. So Peer, first of all, indirect expenses are always given in the question. Secondly, indirect expenses are not recorded, neither it is shown in the trading account. So indirect expenses are basically related with the profit and loss account only. Okay. All right. Now, let's first prepare the profit and loss account. So let's prepare profit and loss account. Just a minute. Okay, so first of all, in this format, we will be just yes, profit and loss account. Okay, so first of all, in this question, because gross profit is given, no, gross profit is, look at the right hand side of the question. The first item on the right on the right side of the question is gross profit 7,69,000. 7,69,000. So 7,69,000, because it is a gross profit, we will be recording it on which side? Tell me, on which side of the account? Credit side, correct. On the credit side, we will be recording by gross profit 7,69,000. So we will write down by gross profit 7,96,000. Not 96,000, 69,000 it was. Done, everyone? Is this clear, all of you? Any doubts?
No doubt, clear.
Now we have general expenses. Tell me, because it is a general expense, so tell me, just identify whether it is a direct expense or it will be considered as the indirect expense. General expense is a direct or indirect expense. Do you think it is related to production? Yes or no?
No.
No. General expenses are not related to production. These are some miscellaneous expenses. So all the miscellaneous expenses are recorded in the profit and loss account on which side? On the debit side.
Debit side.
We will be recording the value of the general expenses on the debit side. 12,000 by two general expenses. General expenses 12,000. Okay. Next item. Then we have charity. Charity is also miscellaneous expense. So charity will also be recorded in the profit and loss account on the debit side to charity. You guys are writing this, no? Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Then we have office lighting. So this is related to office and administration. 5,000 will be again to office lighting. $5,000 on the debit side. Next we have law charges. Law charges 5,800 again to law charges. $5,800. Next item. Next is advertisement. 14,200. So advertisement is 14,200 to advertisement. 14,200. This is related to sales, selling and distribution expense. This is basically selling and distribution expense. Then we have bank charges, 1,200. To bank charges. Okay. Bank charges was 1,200. Sorry. It's 1,200. Then we have commission. Tell me, commission is which? Commission is what? What do you think? What is commission? Commission is an income or it is an expenditure, whether it is a direct expense or indirect expense, and on which side of the profit and loss account we will be recording it.
The commission
It
will be
will be
recorded in debit.
credited.
It will be credited because
It's an
commission-
income
it is an income.
received.
Sir, but commission receipt should be in credit side and commission should be in debit side, right?
All right, perfect. So if question specifically mentioned that it is a commission received, then only you will consider it as the income. Number one, either question will specifically mention that it is a commission received, then only it will be treated as an income. Number one. Secondly, if commission received is not given, then it will be given in this format: commission credit balance of the commission, and then in that case also this will be considered as the commission received. Then only you will be recording it on the credit side of the profit and loss account. Like in this question here, you can see the last item. This is written commission credit, right? So commission credited basically means this is commission received. Commission credited basically means this is commission received. So we will be recording this value on the credit side of the profit and loss account. But this commission of rupees 7,000, this is not the income. This will be considered as the expense only. So we will be recording the commission this time on the debit side of the profit and loss account. Is this clear, everyone? Tell me, everyone.
Clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so commission. Next. Commission. Then we have rent, rates and taxes. Rent, rates and taxes. This is also indirect expense. 30,000 to rent, rates, and taxes, 30,000 on the debit side again. Next. Then we have interest on investment. Tell me, interest on investment. Tell me what will be interest on investment. It will be an income or the expense. Interest on investment. It will be an income or the expense. Halima, Hamad, Alexander, Steve. Anyone? Interest on investment. Guys, come on. Alexander, what do you think interest on investment will be? It will be an indirect expense or the income?
Indirect expense.
Indirect expense.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Hamad, what do you think?
Sir, is it income?
Why are you so doubtful? See, it is already written in the question that interest on investment. That means whenever you invest, you will be receiving investment. You will be earning the interest. Now, when you invest in any kind of securities or some or anywhere, if it is written that interest on investment, that it means you are receiving interest on the investment. So therefore, it will be considered as the income. So if it is an income, on which side of the profit and loss account we should record it?
Credit?
Credit side. Alexander, is this clear to you as well?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So by interest on investment on the credit side. $12,000. Now, next item. Sundry receipts. Tell me, sundry receipts. Tell
Sir,
me
it
what
is an income. So it will be recorded in credit side.
question, no? Sundry receipts. So obviously it is a receipt. So it will be recorded on the credit side. 6,000 by sundry receipts. 6,000. Next we have indirect expenses. Tell me on which side? So it is
Debit side.
given by the name of indirect expenses. So we will be recording it on the debit side by the name of two indirect expenses only. Two indirect expense 2,100. All right. Next, printing and stationery. This is also expense, office related expense. So to printing and stationery the value of printing and stationery was 1,500. So 1,500. Now, then we have already recorded the value of the gross profit. Carriage outward is there. Carriage outward basically means expenses incurred on selling the product. That means this is also indirect expenses. So 20,000 on the debit side. Carriage outward 20,000 to carriage outwards 20,000. Okay. Next item, office expenses 16,000. Again on the debit side to office expenses 16,000. After this, we have fire insurance premium. So we are paying premium for the fire insurance of rupees 18,000. So to insurance premium. How much it was? It was 18,000. So 18,000. Tell me guys, is this clear everyone? Any doubts till this point?
No, sir.
Alexander,
No, sir.
Steve, anyone? Any doubts?
No, sir.
No doubt.
Okay. Then moving on to the next item, we have telephone expenses. Again, it is already given in by the name of expense. So we will be recording it on the debit side. Telephone expenses 13,500. So to telephone expenses 13,500. Next item, establishment expenses. Again, establishment expenses 2,500 on the debit side. To all the expenses will be recorded on the debit side. To establishment expense 2,500. Then we have miscellaneous expenses 7,100. So to miscellaneous expenses 7,100. After this, we have discount received. Tell me whether it is an expense or an income. Discount received. Tell me, anyone?
Income.
Halima. Tell me, what is this?
Income.
Okay. Alexander, what do you think? What is discount received?
Income, sir.
Income, correct. So discount received 6,200. We will be recording it again on the debit side, credit side, sorry, by discount received 6,200. Okay. After that, we have traveler's salary. So traveler's salary is obviously expense. Traveler's salary is 60,000. So to traveler's salary 60,000. All right. We have so many expenses in this question. So this question is little lengthy. Repairs. Repairs 4,300. Again, it is an expense. So to repairs 4,300. And finally, the last item is commission credited 2,000. So credited commission basically means commission received. So commission
So it will be income.
that will be income on the credit side.
Credit side.
Yes. So by commission received. Okay. So this is it. Now what we will do, we will first of all total the credit side. We will total this side first of all. Then after totaling this side, we will reduce all the values shown on the debit side. Okay. And if credit side is greater than the debit side, then in that case, we will have a profit. And if credit side is greater than the debit side, sorry, debit side is greater than the credit side, then in that case, we will have a loss. So then in that case, losses will be recorded on the credit side. If we have the profit, it will be recorded on the debit side. Tell me, everyone, is this clear, all of you? Any doubts? Will you be able to total all the values? And can you find the value of the gross profit or gross loss? Tell me.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, everyone. So guys, if you have any doubt, do let me know, please. Alexander, Peer, Steve, Halima, any doubts?
No, sir.
No. So this is the solution, and let me just show you the solution on the PowerPoint. Just a minute. Yeah. So in this case, there will be a profit of 5,72,000. Clear, everyone? So we will write down the gross profit on the 5,72,000 on the debit side. So we will write down on the debit side like this: to gross profit, sorry, to net profit 5 lakh and 72,000. So this is your final answer. And the total of both the sides will be, total of both the sides is 7,95,200. So we will write down 7,92,500 and 7,92,500. All right. 7,95,000. 7,95,200. Okay, I hope the question is clear to all of you. So if you want to take the screenshot of the solution, please take it. And then we will move forward to the next question. Do let me know when you are done, everyone. Ahmad, Teer.
Sir, I already wrote it.
Okay. All right, so let's move to the next question. We have this question. And in this question, we need to find out gross profit. We are also required to find out the operating profit and net profit. So for the time being, we will not be talking about the calculation of the operating profit. I haven't taught you the calculation of operating profit. How do we actually calculate operating profit? That we will discuss in the next class only. But for now, just find out the value of the gross profit and the net profit from the given information. All right, everyone. So just tell me, in order to find out the gross profit, what we will be required to do. Alexander, what we will have to do in order to find out the gross profit? In order to find out the gross profit, what we will be required to do? What kind of statement we will be required to prepare?
A trading account.
Yes. For finding out the gross profit, we will have to prepare the trading account, and for calculating the net profit, we will have to prepare the profit and loss account. So guys, I want everyone to prepare the trading account and profit and loss account, and kindly find the gross profit and net profit from the given information. Let me know if you guys have any doubt regarding the question. Alexander, Halima, Hamad, Peer, and Steve. Is everything clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Come on, do it fast. Find out the trading, prepare the trading account, find out the gross profit, then prepare profit and loss account and find out net profit. Operating profit is also not very difficult. Operating profit, the concept of operating profit is also easy. But let's see if we will have the time, then I'll explain this as well. Otherwise, we will learn the concept of operating profit in the next class only. So first of all, in this question, we will prepare the trading account. So in order to prepare the trading account, we will write down the value of the opening stock on the debit side. To opening stock 50,000. So to opening stock 50,000 on the debit side of the trading account. Then we will write down the value of the net sales on the credit side. Net sales is 11 lakh. Net sales is 11 lakh. That is on the credit side. So by net sales 11 lakh. Okay, next item, net purchases. So net purchases will be recorded on the debit side of the trading account. To net purchase. Net purchase is 6 lakhs. Okay. After net purchase, we have direct expenses. So all the direct expenses are recorded in the trading account, right? So direct expenses 60,000 will be recorded on the debit side of the trading account. To direct expenses. $60,000. Okay. After this, we have the administration expenses. Tell me, it is a direct expense or the indirect expense? Administration expense is a direct or the indirect expense?
Indirect.
Indirect expense, correct. So administration expenses will be recorded in the profit and loss account. So let's write down it in the profit and loss account. So we will be recording it on the debit side only. To administration expense. $45,000. Is this clear, everyone? Any doubts?
No doubt.
Okay. Moving on to next item, selling and distribution expense. Again, what kind of loss or what kind of expense it is? Selling and
Indirect.
direct or indirect? Indirect expense. Selling and distribution is related to indirect expense. Selling and distribution expense. Selling and distribution expense. Expenses was 65,000. Okay. Now, next item is loss due to fire. Tell me what kind of expense it is? It is indirect expense or the direct expense? Loss due to fire is always indirect expense. So again, we will record it on the credit side, sorry, debit side of the profit and loss account. To loss by fire. The loss by fire, the value of loss by fire is 20,000. 20,000. Next item, we have closing stock 70,000. So closing stock will be written here by closing stock in the trading account. 70,000. This is it. Now we will total first of all the trading account. So sum total of the credit side of the trading account is 11 lakh and 70,000. And out of 11 lakh 60,000, we will be reducing 6 lakh plus 60,000 plus 50,000. That will be 7 lakh 10 and 7 lakh 60,000. So 7 lakh 60,000 will be reduced from 11 lakh 70,000. We will reduce 7 lakh and 60,000. 7 lakh 60,000. So there will be a profit of 4 lakh 10,000. Okay. So it will be treated as to gross profit. Gross profit will be 4 lakh and 10,000. Is this clear, everyone? Alexander, Hamad, Halima, P.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 11 lakh 70,000
Yes.
will tally this account. Okay, this account will be closed. Now,
Sir,
yes,
the gross profit should be 4,60,000, right?
4 lakh 60,000. I'm getting 4 lakh 10,000 only. Okay, calculate it again. So first of all, the sales were 11 lakh plus 70,000 for the closing stock, and out of 11 lakh 70,000, we will be reducing 50,000 first of all, then 6 lakhs, then 60,000. So I think, yeah, 4 lakh 60,000. the correct answer. Sorry, 4,60,000 is the gross profit, guys. Sorry, 4,60,000. Halima, Peer, Alexander, is this clear, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Now we will carry forward this because there is a profit, so we will carry forward this to the profit and loss account. On which side? On the credit side of the profit and loss account. So I will write it down here to by gross profit. By gross profit, 4,60,000. Now, since there is no other expense and income given in the question, so I will simply tally the account. So first of all, I will tally the credit side. I will total the credit side 4,60,000. And out of 4,60,000, I will be reducing the value shown on the debit side. So out of 4,60,000, I will first reduce 45,000, then 65,000, then 20,000. So the answer will be 3,30,000. Tell me, 3,30,000 will be treated as the expense. Sorry, it will be treated as the net loss or net profit. Tell me, anyone. It will be treated as the net profit or net loss.
Net loss.
Net profit.
Net profit, because credit side is greater than the debit side. So this will be a net profit situation.
Okay, sir.
3,30,000 will be the net profit. Now we will close this profit and loss account as well by totaling both the sides, and both the side most tally. So 4,60,000 on both sides of the account. Tell me, everyone, is this clear, all of you?
Yes.
And Ahmad, Halima, Peer.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, everyone. You guys have written it down?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So we have one more question. Achha, let me also explain the concept regarding the operating profit to you. What is operating profit? Is very easy, guys. What is operating profit? I'm sorry. So operating profit, for calculating operating profit, there is a formula, and formula is very simple. In order to find out the operating profit, what do we actually do? We basically reduce the non-operating incomes from the net profit. Just a minute. Let's say if there is a net profit in the question, like we have received in this question, the net profit is 3,30,000. So out of the net profit of 3,30,000, we will reduce all the indirect, all the non-operating incomes, non-operating incomes, and we will add back non-operating expenses. Non-operating expenses. All right. So this is the formula for the finding out the operating profit. Net profit minus non-operating incomes plus non-operating expenses. Okay. Just a minute. Okay. Non-operating expenses, that is. Non-operating expenses. So in this question, we have the non-operating. Just a minute. I think yes. Okay. So we have got net profit of 3,30,000, right? And what are the non-operating incomes? We have no non-operating income this time. We have nothing on the credit side. So non-operating expense, non-operating incomes are 0. So therefore we have taken 0. And non-operating expenses, what are the non-operating expenses? Loss by fire is a non-operating expense. This is not related to our operation. Loss by fire. This loss is, do you think loss by fire is an operating expense? Answer is no. What is, sir, what do you mean by the operating expense? Operating expense basically means expenses incurred on the operations of the business. Any expense incurred on selling, distribution, advertising, basically when you are paying your employees salary, all of these are considered as the operating expenses of the business. But if there is a loss incurred on account of fire, so loss on fire is basically non-operating. Is this is obviously this is an expense. If stock is getting destroyed by fire, obviously it is an expense. But this expense is not directly related with our operations. This will not be treated as our operating expense. So therefore, it will be a non-operating expense. So how do we calculate operating profit? For calculating operating profit, we take the value of the net profit. Out of the net profit, we reduce the value of the non-operating incomes. If there is any non-operating income, it will be indicated on the credit side. We will reduce all the non-operating income from from the net profit, and we will add back non-operating expenses. So like in this question, non-operating expense is 20,000. So we will add it back 20,000. So now the operating profit will be 3,50,000 only. Tell me everyone, is this clear? How do we actually calculate operating profit? Is this clear, all of you? The formula is clear, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. And the
Yes.
calculation is
Yes,
clear.
clear.
Calculation is clear to all of you? Ahmad, Alexander?
Yes, clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is it. This was the question related to the profit and loss account. So I am giving you one question for your homework. And in this question, you need to find out the operating profit only. In this question, you will be required to find out the operating profit only. I have already told you the formula for finding the operating profit. This will be your homework, and you will be required to find out the operating profit in this question. Is this clear, everyone? Just give it a try. And if you are not able to solve this question, I'll be solving this in the next class. Ahmad, Alexander, Halima, Steve, and P. Is this clear, all of you? Kindly take the screenshot of this, please. Let me know if you have any doubts.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Done with the screenshot?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so guys, this is it for today's session. So in the today's session, we were talking about the profit and loss account. So I hope everything that we have discussed is clear to all of you. We will
Yes, sir.
we will be doing more questions based on the profit and loss account in the next question. And in fact, we will be doing such questions and wherein we will be required to prepare both the accounts, the trading account and the profit and loss account. And after doing few questions based on the trading and profit and loss account, we will be moving forward to understand the balance sheet. So finally, in the last topic of the chapter is the balance sheet preparation. So we will do that. So this is it for today's class for accounts. And this is it. We will take a break of 5 minutes, then we will continue with our economic session. So those of you who are here for the account session only, they may leave the session now. And this is it. Thank you so much for attending the class. Goodbye. Alexander, you are here for your economics class as well? Alexander? Alexander, are you there? Alexander, are you there? Okay. Hello, Alexander, are you there?
Yes, sir.
So you're here for your economics class as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So have you taken any session for the economics also?
Only one session, sir.
Only one session for which chapter?
Um, production.
Production function.
Yeah.
All right. So okay, let's continue the production function only. Just a minute. Give me a moment. Let me change the slide. So do you have any doubts regarding the topic that we have already discussed in this chapter
No, sir.
about the production? You are also aware about the types of factors of production that we use for production?
Yeah.
So what are the different types of factors?
Input.
No. Production is a process that converts the input into output. But input in economics is known as the factors of production. And factors of production are broadly categorized into two parts. So what are the two categories in which factors of production are categorized? Are you able to recall this? Yes or no?
Sir, input and output.
No. Production. See, that is production. Production is a process that converts the input into output. So that is the definition of the production. A process that converts the input into output. Now, what I'm asking is that what kind of inputs are used in the production of a commodity? If you want to produce any commodity, what kind of different inputs that is used in the process of production? So do you have any idea about this?
No, sir.
Okay. So this, I have explained this concept in the first class of this chapter only. Okay, let's understand this again, no problem. Yes. So you already know the meaning of the production, no?
Yeah.
So production is what? Production is a process. It is a process of converting the inputs into outputs. So now all the inputs that are used for the, let's say for example, a company wants to produce bottles, water bottles. So for producing bottle, this company or a producer, what are the things that a producer will require for producing bottles? He will be requiring the raw material, right? He will also require labors. He will require machine, correct? He will also require space wherein the production will be carried out. And he will also require electricity for producing or running the machine. Okay, and he may also require fuel for running the machinery. There is a possibility. And there may be other things also. So all these things that the producer will be using for producing bottle, all these things are collectively known as the inputs, right? And using these input, he will be producing the bottle. So this will be his output. Okay. Now, in economics, what do? We basically divide the inputs. All the inputs have been categorized into two parts. All the inputs have been categorized into two parts. One is called the fixed. First of all, input in economics is known as the factors of production. In economics, inputs are called factors of production. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
And factors of production are categorized into how many parts? It is categorized into two parts. So there are two types of factors of production. One is called the fixed factors of production, and the other is called the variable factor of production. Is this clear? Fixed factor and the variable factor. So
Yes, sir.
what are actually fixed factor? So see, Alexander, fixed factor are those factors that does not change with the change in the level of output. That means even if output increases or if output decreases, fixed factor remains same. Let's say a firm is using a particular machinery for producing goods. All right. So if even if the production, let's say this factory, this producer is using 5 machinery for producing goods, and this 5 machines have a collective capacity of producing 50,000 units. By using 5 machines, this firm can produce how many units? This firm can produce 50,000 units of output by applying all the machines. But currently, this firm is only producing, let's say this firm is only producing 1,000 units of output. So tell me, are five machine will be sufficient for producing 1,000 units? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And if company wants to expand the production, let's say company now wants to produce 10,000 units of output. So whether they will be required to purchase more machinery, yes or no?
They won't need more machinery.
They will require more machine? No.
No, they won't require.
The collective capacity of 5 machines is how much quantity? 50,000 units. So if company wants to produce only 10,000 units, then the only 5 machine will be sufficient, because collective capacity of the 5 machine is 50,000 units, but firm is currently operating at only 10,000 units. Then 5 machine will be sufficient. There will be no required to purchase new machinery. Getting my point?
Yes.
And similarly, if firm wants to produce 30,000 units, tell me whether they will have to buy new machines. Yes or no?
No.
No. If the firm wants to produce 50,000 units, still there will be no change in the requirement of the machine. Machine will remain same. At 1,000 unit, it was 5. At 10,000 units, same machine will be used. At 30, at 50,000 unit, same machine can be used. So that means production is increasing, but the requirement of fixed factor is not changing. Machine is a fixed factor, right? So because machine is a fixed factor, therefore, even if we are increasing the production, the requirement of the fixed factor is constant. So any factor that does not increases or decreases with the change in the level of output, such kind of factor is considered as the fixed factor. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, similarly, let's say if production decline, if from 50,000 unit, it goes down to 35,000 units only. Or from 30,000 units, it goes down to 15,000 units. From 10,000 units, it declined to, let's say, only 4,000 units of output. Or from 1,000, it goes down to 500. Then still, in that case also, same machinery will be used. It does not mean that if production decline, then we should reduce the machinery. Machinery will remain same even if production increases or decreases. That means machine is a kind of fixed factor. Is this clear, Alexander?
Yes, sir.
So in simple term, you can say fixed factor are those factors that does not change with the change in the level of output. Factors that does not change with the change in the level of output are fixed factors. Similarly, variable factors are factors that keep on changing with the change in the level of output. If you will increase the production, the requirement of the variable factor will also increase. Let's say you are producing 10 unit of output, and for producing 10 unit of output, you are employing labor. For producing output, you are employing labor. So currently 1 labor is applied for producing 10 unit of output. Let's say if you want to produce more quantity of output, let's say you want to produce 20 unit or 30 unit or 40 unit or 50 unit. Tell me, will there be requirement of more number of labors or no? So the same labor will be useful?
No, they will require more.
Yeah, correct. So labor will be, more labors will be required. So for producing 10 units, only 1 labor was required. Now for producing 20 units, there will be requirement of more labors. So 2, 3, 4, 5. and it will goes on increasing if we keep on increasing the output. So as the output increases, the requirement of the variable factor also increases, and vice versa. Let's say if production goes down from 50, let's say it started declining to 30, then it declined to 20 or 15 or 5, or let's say 2. So in that case, less number of labors will be required. So factors of production that are directly connected with the production. That means if production increases, the requirement of the variable factor, the requirement of the factor will increase, and if production decline, the requirement of the variable factor decreases, then in that case it will be treated as the variable factor. Okay, is this clear, Alexander?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so see, all those inputs which are used for the purpose of production of goods are collectively known as factors of production in this chapter. And all the factors of production may be categorized into two parts. There are two factors of production, fixed factor and the variable factor. What are fixed factor? Fixed factor are those factors which do not change with the change in the output. That means even if output increases or decreases, fixed factor remains fixed. Generally, in case of fixed factor, we include tractor or any kind of machine, building, equipment. All of these are generally fixed factor. And similarly, in case of the variable factor are those factors that keep on changing, with the change in the level of output. If output increases, variable factor increases, and vice versa. Okay. And after this, we have understood the concept of product. So are you able to recall how many types of product are there, Alexander? Do you remember that? How many types of product are there?
Yes, sir.
Please tell me how many types of product are there?
3.
3 types of product. Perfect. And what are those?
Total product, average product, marginal product.
Very good. Now, can you also tell me the meaning of the total, average, and the marginal product, please? Any idea what is the total product, average product, or the marginal product?
Marginal product is when it increases the amount that changed.
The amount that changed. Okay. And what is total product?
The number of units that they lay.
This once more. All right.
Okay.
So at least you know you know that there are 3 types of product. So we have 3 types of product, and first of all, so the first product is the total product. Then we have average product. After this, we have the marginal product. Okay, so what is the total product? So total quantity produced by all the labors are known as total product. So let's say I have 10 labors to produce goods, and all these 10 labors are able to produce collectively, they are able to produce, let's say 5,000 units collectively. So 10 labors collectively produce 5,000 units of output. So total quantity of output that they produce will be known as the total product. This will be total product. Is this clear, Alexander?
Yes,
total
sir.
quantity produced by all the labor will be total product. Now, can you tell me if 10 laborers are able to produce 5,000 units of output, that means how many units of output is produced by one single labor?
500.
500. And how do we, how did you calculated this? How did you calculated 500? So it is very simple. If 10 laborers are producing 5,000 units, that means we will divide it by 10. So we will get the output produced by one labor. So one labor contribution, one labor output will be, it will be known as, sorry, it will be 500. So 500 will be known as the average product. Output produced by one labor is the average product. All right, is this clear?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, now let's say the number of laborers are increased in the business. From 10, the laborers increase to 11. When labor increased to 11, total quantity also increases from 5,000 to 5,400. So earlier 10 laborers were contributing 5,000 units of output. That was the total output earlier. Now 11 laborers are collectively contributing 5,400 units. So tell me, what is the total product now? What is the total product now? Earlier it was 5,000. Now it will be
5,400.
correct, 5,400. Now can you also tell me how many extra unit we are able to produce by applying one extra labor?
400.
400. So amount production contributed by one extra labor. One extra labor. Whatever the quantity one extra labor is contributing, it will be considered as the marginal product. So 400 in this case is what it will be, a marginal. It will be a marginal product. Tell me, Alexander, is the concept of total product, average product, and marginal product is clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's understand this through one more illustration. Let's suppose these are the units of the output. 0, 1, not 0. Yeah, okay, no problem. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So these are the various input, various quantity that a firm is producing. And for producing all these input, firm is using both kind of resource. They are using fixed factor, as well as firm is also using the variable factors. Variable factor. Okay. And by applying fixed and variable factor, they are able to produce, let's say this is the total product. And then we have this average product and the marginal product. Okay. Let's say the firm is using 5 fixed factor. That means if production increases from 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fixed factor will remain fixed. There will be no change in the fixed factor, right? So if the fixed factor at first unit is 5, that means fixed factor will be same till the 7th unit also. And even if we are not producing, in that case also fixed factor will remain same. So because fixed factor is not affected by the change in the level of output, so even if we increase the production or we decrease the production, the fixed requirement of the fixed factor will remain same in the business. Is that clear, Alexander?
Yes, sir.
Now, this is not, just a minute. Instead of variable factor, this is not units, this is the units of the labor or units of the variable factor. Okay, so let's say variable factor was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so now the total product in this column, then we have average product, and finally we will have the marginal product. So let's say total product is, when only one labor is applied, total product was 60. Then total product increases to 140. After that, total production increases to just a minute, 240, then 300, and finally 300 and 400, 450, then 420, 400, and okay, so this is it. So this is the value of the total product. We have applied 8 labors, and by applying 8 labors, we have got total product of 60, 140, 240, 300, 400, 450, 420, and 400. These are all hypothetical figure, Alexander. So now in this question, we need to find out, first of all, we need to find out the average product. So can you tell me the average product at the first unit of labor? Average, how do we actually calculate average product? So average product is calculated by dividing the total product by the labor. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So total product is 60 at the first unit of labor. So 60 divided by 1, we will get 60. Then 140 divided by 2, we will get
70.
70. Then 240 divided by 3, we will get 80. Then 300 divided by 4, we will get, tell me, 75, I think. Yes. Then 400 divided by 5, 80 again. Then 450 divided by 6, 70, and 75 again. Yes, no? Alexander, is this clear? Like,
Yes, sir.
then we will calculate 420 divided by 7, 60, and 400 divided by 8. Tell me.
50.
50. Okay. This is the average product. Now, what is marginal product? Marginal product basically means extra production by applying one extra labor. So see, when there was only one labor, the total production was 60. So just remember, keep this in mind. At the first unit, at the first labor, whatever the total product, that will only be the marginal product also. So at the first unit of labor, average product, marginal product, and the total product, everything remains same. At the first unit of labor, total product, average product, and the marginal product, everything remains same. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, in order to find out the marginal product, what do? We determine the change arising in the total product. Whatever the change arising in the total product, that will be considered as the marginal product. So let's calculate the marginal product at the second labor. So from 60, the total production rises to 140. That means marginal product is how much? 80, right? From 60 goes to 140. That means marginal product is 80. And again, from 140 it rises to 240. That means marginal product is how much, Alexander?
100.
100, correct. So marginal product is 100. Then from 240 to 300, tell me.
60.
Perfect. From 300 to 400,
100.
100. 400 to 450, 50. Then from 450 it declined to 420. That means there is a reduction. Marginal product is minus 30. And from 420 declined to 400. That means marginal product is only minus 20. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
So this is how we calculate the marginal product and the average product. Okay. So just a minute. Let's read the definition of the average, total, and marginal on the PowerPoint. So this is the definition of the total product, average product, and the marginal product. So Total product is total output produced by applying all the units of the fixed and variable factor. And a marginal product is the additional unit produced by applying one extra unit of labor. And average product is the output produced per unit of variable factor. That means output contributed by one labor. Variable factor simply means labor. Okay. Now, all right, Alexander. So can you find out the value of the average product and the marginal product in this question, please?
Sir, we did this last class.
Okay, we have already done this. All right. Let me give you another question. Please write it down. Why were you not attending the economics class after the first class?
The second class, I think I got the wrong link. That's it.
Okay. Find out the remaining values. Complete this table.
Okay, sir.
Steve, you're writing this. Are you writing this? Steve,
Yes, sir.
please solve this question. Done, Alexander. The first question.
Yes, sir.
Please solve the second one.
Okay.
And Steve, what about the first question? Steve, you are doing no? Tell me the answer of the first question, please. Steve. Steve is not responding. Alexander, can you tell me the answer of the first question?
Okay, sir. MP, the first one is 40.
You
The
have
second,
you have solved the first question, no?
yeah,
Yeah, okay. Just a minute. So at the 0 unit of labor, the marginal product will be how much?
0.
Correct. And average product will also be 0. Total product will also be 0. Now at the first unit, if average product is 40, that means total product will also be 40. And marginal product will also be 40. Same. Now moving on to the next, average product is 45. That means total product will be 45 into 2. For finding the total product, we simply multiply average product with the labor. So AP into labor will give you the answer for the total product. So it is 45 into 2,
90.
90. Then 50 into 3, 150.
150.
40 into 4,
160.
30 into 5, 150. And 22 into 6,
132.
132. Now, once we are done with the calculation of the total product, then we can easily find out the marginal product. So marginal product is basically calculated as a change in the total product. So from 40, total product rises to 90. That means there is a change of 50 unit. So 50 unit will be the marginal product. Similarly, from 90, it goes to 140. That means marginal product will be 60 unit. And for the next, it will be 10, then minus 10, and then minus 18. This is the marginal product. You got the same answer now?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Please solve the other question. Let me know when you are done. No?
Okay.
Done, Alexander? Still doing?
I'm still doing, sir.
Okay, no problem. Take your time. Done, Alexander?
No, sir.
Having any problem?
No, sir.
Still not done? You're still doing, or you have some problem with the question?
I'm still doing the calculation is taking some time. That's it.
So shall I wait for a few more minutes?
Okay. Yeah. Just a minute.
Okay. Okay, let's do one thing. Let me solve the question and just tally your solution with my solution. So we have at the first unit of variable factor, that is at the when we have applied one labor, we have the marginal product of 100. And as I have told you that at first unit everything remains same. If marginal product is 100, that means average product will also be 100. The total product will also be 100. Now at the second unit of labor, average product is 110. That means total product will be how much?
220.
Correct. 220. And now to calculate the marginal product, we will simply evaluate the difference arising in the total product. So earlier it was 100, now it is 220. That means marginal product
120.
Okay. Now next time at the third unit of labor, we have the marginal product. That means extra production we have got 150 unit. Marginal product simply means the extra production. So if production rises by 150 unit, that means total production will now be 370.
70.
Okay. Now in order to find out the average product, we will simply divide total product by the quantity of the labor. So 370 divided by 3, it will be
123.3.
123.3. 123.3. Okay. Now the total product is 600. That means there is a change of how many units?
230.
So that will be your marginal product, and average product will be 600 divided by 4. Tell me.
150.
150. Correct. Now again, the marginal product is 100. That means we will add 100 to the total production. From 600, it will rise to 700. Okay. Now 700 divided by 5, we will get 140. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Then again, at the 6 unit total product is 750. That means there is a change of only 50 unit here. So this 50 unit will be considered as the marginal product. And now in order to find out the average product, we will divide 750 by the labor 6. So 750 divided by 6, we will get 125, I think. Yes, Alexander, is this correct?
Yes, sir.
After that, average product is 100 and the labor is 700. That means total product will be 700 into 100. So it will be 700. And what is the change arising in the total product? 50.
Yes, sir.
50. The production increases by 50 or production is decreasing by 50?
Decreasing. Minus 50.
Minus 50 will be the marginal product. Correct. And at the 8th unit of variable factor, the marginal product is minus 200. That means our production is declined by 200 units. That means the total production will now be only 500. And now 500 will be divided by 8. We will get average product. So 500 divided by 8, answer will be, tell me.
62.5.
62.5. Correct. So this is it. Tell me, Alexander, is everything clear in this question?
Yes, sir. Everything is clear.
Okay. So, so this is it for today's session. We won't be discussing anything more. In the next class, we will talk about the law of variable proportion, which is one of the very, very important topic in this chapter. This is, you can say, this is the most important topic in the chapter, and whenever the questions is asked in exam from this chapter, this particular topic is will be there. You will find this the question from this topic in the examination. So this is the most important topic in the chapter. So make sure you attend the next class, and this is it for today. Thank you so much for taking the class. So we will be taking the next class on Thursday at the same time.
Okay.
All right. Is there any doubt you want to ask anything?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, Stephen.